Hello and welcome back to Monster Monday. Today I'm going to be delving into some brand new material that most of you may have never even thought of because it's coming from this book, Limitless Adventures, Limitless Monsters Volume 2. I'm so excited that I backed this on the Kickstarter, and I'm going to start off this relaunch of Monster Monday with some of the cool things from this book. Let's dig into it. All right, guys, so the very first thing that I'm going to do from Limitless Monsters Volume 2 is alphabetically, and just happens to be something that I really cling to and loved when I read it. So the first thing that I'm going to cover here is the Abyssal Tree. Now, what I liked about this was that it's a challenge rating 9, so that's kind of like a upper mid-level or even lower high-level kind of encounter. And as always with Monster Monday, depending on how you need to use it, you can make adjustments. You could add more of these things to make the encounter more robust, or you could, weaken it and skim some of the powers off of this thing to make it more manageable for a mid-level party encounter. But one of the things that Limitless Adventures does with these books and these volumes is they also include potential story and adventure hooks, which they call Further Adventure, which is actually trademarked. Good job. So I'm going to get into that too, but let's talk about the lore. So the Abyssal Tree. The creatures vaguely resemble trees made of gray flesh covered with patches of matted hair and scabs. The trees reek of body odor and their trunks are covered in a slimy sheen. So that description right there is awesome. It's like a zombie tree, basically. Like imagine a tree not made of wood, but of rot and flesh and, people almost. Really cool. So stat-wise, it's a huge aberration, chaotic evil, armor class 16, hit points 12d12 plus 60, so not a small amount of hit points. It does have a movement speed, which later on in the lore here, it actually talks about how it can move. It moves slowly, but it is able to move. Damage resistance to fire. So usually if a party comes across some kind of abomination nature thing, like a blight or some kind of trent, fire is a great weapon to use against trees, right? But this thing, remember, it's flesh covered and slimy. It's actually has damage resistance to fire. So if a party is trying to go head to head with this thing and their first instinct is to blast it with firebolt or fireball or any kind of flame attack, they will be surprised. The other thing that I like is that this is actually not an undead creature, so radiant damage doesn't really do anything special to it. It does have condition immunities as well, to being blinded, charmed, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, prone, and restrained. There's another cool thing that I'm going to look forward to using with this as well. So, passive perception of 13, not bad. Slimy. So this is one of the features of this. Slimy. Any attempt to climb or grapple an abyssal tree are made at disadvantage. Interesting. Stench. Any creature that starts its turn within 5 feet of the abyssal must succeed on a DC 16 con save or be poisoned until the start of the creature's next turn. On a successful save, the creature is immune to the stench of all abyssal trees for 1 hour. I like that. I like that its actual existence is so revolting that it would cause people to retch if they get too close to it, and then basically the condition of poisoned affects them. So this also creates a challenge with your melee or hand-to-hand combatants. If the party tries to go up and attack this thing, now they're going to have to make that relatively high DC 16 con save. All right, notice also that the stench effect doesn't necessarily cause damage. It causes the condition of being poisoned. If you wanted to ramp this up, say you had a higher level, a group that was level 12, 13, 14, 15, you could have a bunch of these abyssal trees and actually have their revolting stench cause actual damage on a failed save or half damage on a successful save if you wanted to ramp them up a bit. All right, now we get to its actions. So it has multi-attacks. The Abyssal Tree makes 2 tentacle attacks. The tentacle attack is a melee weapon attack, plus 10 to hit, reach of 5 feet. Hit is 3d8 plus 6 bludgeoning damage. Now, I love Andy and Mike from Limitless Adventures, but I'm going to call that they maybe could have made an adjustment to this, and when using this, will definitely make this adjustment. This is a huge creature. It should not have a reach of 5 feet. It should have a reach of 10 feet minimum, maybe even 15 feet. So think about this strategically, right? This abyssal tree, if you get too close to it, you have to deal with the stench and the con save, which means you're dealing with it from further away, but it should also be able to reach you from 10, 15, 20 feet away. When I think of a big tree with big tree branches and it's animated magically, it should be able to like swoop down. Think of the what's the thing from Harry Potter? The Whomping Willow? The Walloping Willow? You know what I mean? The animated tree, right? Like that thing could reach like 100 feet. So you most definitely should add reach attacks to this. I do like the idea of 2 tentacle attacks. And again, as you know, a little pivot on that, if you wanted to ramp this up for higher level, you could absolutely make it 3 or 4 attacks. Why couldn't it have that many attacks if it has big branches that can whip out? You could even add an element to this that is like the 2 primary attacks and then 2 smaller attacks that function as Thorn Whip, right? So how cool would it be if this tree could attack but also could Thorn Whip, and on a successful attack, the defendant would have to make a grapple save, acrobatics or athletics check against, you know, whatever the success of this was, or it's grappled and the Thorn Whip pulls it in and does damage. So this is why I got excited when I read this, because it just got my mind thinking about all the different cool ways that this thing could be a fierce opponent in an encounter. All right, now, one of the other things that I love about Limitless Monsters, Volumes 1 and 2, is not only do they have like the stat block and the information and description about it, but they have lore. And the way that they write this is that they have degrees of success on these lore checks. So it's not just binary. It's not just like, oh, you made your success, you know this. It's degrees of success. So if you have a particularly strong or really high roll for any kind of lore check against these things, you're going to actually learn more about it. That's what I love about this. So check this out. If you're making an arcana check and you get a DC 15, you would find out that abyssal trees were created by some forgotten demon lord in mockery of the real trees of the prime material planes. Thought to be rooted to the ground, abyssal trees can move if they choose, albeit very slowly. That's where that movement rate of 5 comes in. The trees stink like body odor and can make creatures sick if they stand too close. A DC 20 check on that arcana is going to reveal that the slime that covers the abyssal tree makes it resistant to fire damage. So they might not know, if they attack it with a fire attack, they might not know why it's not doing the same impact. But now with that higher level arcana check, they might find out like one of these kind of core secrets about these things. Which again, I think degrees of success is something that I use in all of my D&D games anyway, right? If you have a particularly awesome success, it shouldn't just be like the base information. You know, if you get over a 20 on something with some check, it should give you more. It should reveal more. So I really love that they do that. Then we go into tactics, which is kind of cool because tactics are basically meta guides for how a DM can use this creature. And they have all of this is like kind of the format for all the monsters in this book, all 100 monsters. So it's really helpful for newer DMs, for sure, but even for veteran DMs like myself, it gives you the writer's mindset about like how you could use it. By no means is it a limitation, but it's just kind of useful guides. So the abyssal tree relies on its stench ability to keep melee combatants at bay and swats at ranged attackers with its long tentacles. See, the fact that that's in there, but then up in the stat block they say reach 5 feet, means I think maybe they meant that to be something higher, like 15 feet or whatever. But that's how it's easily fixable, right? That's how you implement it. Additionally, abyssal trees are often home to Scurids who help to protect them. Sciurids. Scurids who help to protect them. I don't know what that is. Maybe that's in this book, or maybe it's in another book. Now I have to flip because I'm curious. Alphabetically, going along to the S's. Yep, it is. Scurids are in this book. So that'll be for another episode of Monster Monday. All right, then Harvest. The slime from an abyssal tree can be used to reduce the cost of a stinking cloud scroll by 50%. Additionally, with a successful DC 15 survival check, the slime can be used to provide fire protection. See below. Sometimes parties just kill a thing and they don't really think about if the thing has any useful elements to it, right? Unless it's like a really common thing where you're like, oh, we must harvest the, fangs of this dragon because they can be sold for material components for this spell. So I think it's really cool that Limitless puts in the harvest component, right? There's something that you can get other than just treasure from the lair of this thing. There's something that you can get from it that might be useful, whether that's for spell components or other kind of enhancements. All right, now, of course, treasure. Among the bones piled at the base of the tree are 3d12 copper, 6d12 silver, 8d10 times 10 gold pieces, and a black pearl, 500 gold. That's cool. So they throw you treasure in there so you don't have to go rooting through tables, right? Everything for this monster encounter is on one page. I love it. That's what I love about this book, and you should love it too. All right, now we get into their trademarked further adventure. This is something I absolutely love because it's something that, as you guys who've been watching Monster Monday know, I love to throw out ideas for how to use a monster in different encounters, adventures, or even as a seed for a whole campaign. So, further adventure number 1 for the Abyssal Tree. An abyssal rift is transforming trees in the forest into abyssal trees. That's an encounter for sure, right? But do you see how that could easily lead to an adventure? Because the adventurers start to ask why. Who made this abyssal rift? What's behind it? Right? It could lead into an adventure. It could lead into a whole campaign. You could actually use this to kind of bypass some of the storyline if you were playing Wizards of the Coast Descent into Avernus. Why couldn't you? A wizard sends the party through a gate to gather abyssal tree slime for an experiment. There's another kind of mission-based idea for how to use this. An elven sage sends the party to investigate rumors of abyssal dryads. So now it connects to other monsters or a bigger conspiracy. So that's awesome. The further adventure hooks are great ways for either a new DM or a veteran who maybe is just kind of running out of ideas and doesn't want to recycle the same crap that they've used for the last 20 years. This is some fresh stuff right here. Now, at the bottom, we have a special little block here called Abyssal Tree Slime. When you slather this pungent slime on your skin, you gain resistance to fire damage for 1 hour. That's awesome. Due to the foul smell of the abyssal slime, you have disadvantage on charisma checks for 2 hours. So, I mean, again, I think it's really cool. It's a great reward for players who have their characters actually go and like check out what this thing is or make the arcana roll to figure out like what this thing is and what properties it has and whether or not there's anything they can harvest from it once they've defeated it. So that's really cool. I think it's a great additional reward on top of treasure. So I can see using this abyssal tree in a lot of different ways. Like I said, if you are playing something that is related to Descent into Avernus, or you're playing something that is kind of set up in a sort of veiled area between, you know, the Shadowfell or the Fae or whatever, you could throw this into the mix easily. You could even do something with Barovia and like Curse of Strahd, where these abyssal trees are kind of part of an encounter that isn't actually in there. So a lot of different ways to include this. And I'm just so happy that the very first page I open up to alphabetically has a monster that is really cool and has a lot of potential. So hopefully you got something cool out of this video, and I will be definitely delving into some of the other Limitless monsters from these books and from other books. But thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for liking the video, And if you want to continue to support us, you can go over to patreon.com/BillAllenWorld, where there are a lot of different ways that you can help support the channel. So thanks and happy adventuring.
Well, hello, and welcome to Bill Allen World. I am Wizzy, the Wizard. I'm back once again to remind you to subscribe and click on the notifications button, and also watch videos that are over there. Tune in to the next episode of whatever show you were just watching, and watch other shows featuring Bill. He made me say that because he's a narcissist. Okay, bye.